So, Brian Boland, very excited to be here with you today for a couple of reasons. One, why would I be here? I'm here because I believe in this white paper. I believe that this is going to be a decade that is revolutionized for the CMO and for marketing in general. In fact, my entire job has changed to focus on that. I led ads product marketing at Facebook for 5 years and have actually made a shift in November to focus 100% on our advertising technologies. So the technologies and the platform that we want to build to serve you and to serve publishers around the world. In fact, I was at F8 today, and when this invite came in, I was worried there would be a busy day with our developer conference where we launched some really exciting advertising products, but really wanted to be here because I believe in these 5 pillars, and I believe that this direction is where marketing is going to head. Now, today we have the honor to talk with Julie Bornstein, who is, as you heard, the Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Digital Officer, 2 jobs, that's impressive, at Sephora. Previously was the head of e-commerce at Urban Outfitters and the VP of e-commerce at Nordstrom, on the board of Stitch Fix, which we could have a whole personalization conversation around, which would be fascinating. So you can't blame me if I'm a little intimidated to interview such an accomplished professional who clearly is miles ahead of me in style. So thanks for your time today. Thanks for laughing. So first, publish or perish. Perish is pretty strong, pretty scary term. So tell us about Sephora's big brand initiatives and how content, that publish or perish kind of mentality, has played into them.
First, just given how many men are in the audience, I should just state that Sephora is a retailer that sells makeup and skincare and beauty products, because it will inform the content that we create in this publish or perish world. And we tend to do about 10 big campaigns a year, and Sephora is one of many places where you can buy the products that we sell. We sell multi-branded products, so we sell lots of other people's brands that you can buy in department stores and in other specialty retailers and online in many places. So for us, a lot of what we think about and do in the marketing space is around creating a superior shopping experience and what is our sort of point of differentiation and how do we tell our story to make those points come to life. So I thought I would just start. I brought some visuals, the only visuals I have in this discussion, but around the content that we create. It is definitely a publish or perish world in our world, and we have become content creators and publishers, as really all retailers have. And I would say we don't yet have the tools that make us as effective or sophisticated in doing it, but we're doing it kind of through brute force in many ways. So I thought I would take one of our big campaigns for this year, which is contouring. And so if you don't know what contouring is, if you know who Kim Kardashian is, she's the sort of celeb who set this beauty trend in motion with a very sort of contoured face. And so we started to see a lot of searches on this term about a year ago, and so we knew that it was becoming a thing, and it was something we were also seeing kind of behind the scenes in the industry. And while we sold a lot of product, we decided this year we were going to make a big stand around this, not just because it's product that people want to buy, but people actually want to learn, women want to learn how to do it. And so one of our big points of difference is that we are very focused on teaching, and we are teaching our consumers how to actually get the looks that they want. The vast majority of girls today, I have a 12-year-old daughter, actually learn about beauty on video. And so that is really, more than a lot of other related industries, it is amazing how sort of the world of video and YouTube has completely changed sort of the whole awareness cycle about brands and products and caring about beauty. But so for us, we sort of everything we do, because we have stores and we have online, is very 360. So this is an example of a campaign that we created where we have tons of content that are kind of supporting this overall arching theme. So we have our store windows and we have the in-store experience where you can sort of see what we're talking about in store. And then we create both a digital and actually a physical sort of vehicle that teaches you actually how to create this look on you. We also, we do print advertising still. We still believe in print and magazine advertising as a big influencer for women. It's definitely, we have not grown our investment in it over the years. We've grown a lot of investment in digital and in software, but we've kind of held steady in print media. That's been our strategy. And we're flying kind of blind because it's very hard to get real attribution around offline marketing. We're just starting to get it with true attribution around online marketing. We partner with some third parties, and then we create our own experiences. We do a lot of video to show you actually how to do it. We work with other third-party content providers to get our content there. We put it all over our website, and we use a lot of digital capabilities to teach you how to do it. And then we actually created an app which you can hold up, and it helps you show the shape of your face and show you how to actually create the look on your face. We also did a takeover on Instagram, and we do sort of, there's tons of content that's kind of created holistically, and then sort of we have channel experts that are taking that content and creating versions of it for the channels that they're managing. So that's kind of an example of, I would say, the brute force effort we're doing to make sure that whatever it is that we think is relevant and we want to share with our consumer, we're using all the touch points possible to connect.
That's awesome. And that's the Kim who broke the internet, is that right?
Exactly.
So that's brute force, as you call it, but that's pretty sophisticated from I would say, from a brute force standpoint. It's not just kind of a handful of things. It's really about content, and it's really about storytelling in a lot of the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we have really started to look towards the future on as we think about this decade of the CMO is first around people, and it's awesome to hear you talk about the people who use your products and really designing this for them. Teaching them is really awesome because you're delivering value to them. And we think that the evolution of marketing is fascinating from a people standpoint, that there's a new relevancy that you can deliver with audiences and with creative. And that drives the business results that you care about. So talk to me a little bit about creative and content and storytelling and what's most important to you as you think about the marketing aspects of storytelling.
I mean, basically, we use, I would say, content and storytelling to reinforce how our brand and our retail experience is different from the other places that we compete with. And so for us, teaching is kind of at the core. The other retailers are less focused on that. We actually rolled out physical classes in our stores last year. And I would say content is awesome for teaching. So teaching is kind of our number one focus when we think about storytelling. Anytime that, whether it's teaching you what product you need for something you want or teaching you how to use the product, that for us is kind of the big unlock. And so that has helped us to kind of focus the tone and the voice and the approach to content creation. Obviously, we also are trying to always help with discovery and buy. So anything that we create, we link it directly to the ability to buy it. So it's very practical and easy to use.
So when you're talking about linking it to buying, you're closing the deal, right? So we're talking about this shift that the paper talks about of moving from marketing, who does a great job, and then says somebody else go figure out if this actually worked, and you go do the heavy lifting, sales, and close the deal. So this really is about moving up towards closing the deal directly in the marketing and the sales. So if now more than ever marketing drives revenue and growth, that's an exciting thing. How has that played a key role beyond that example you shared in your role at Sephora?
Well, I mean, I think probably most relevant to this audience is we really relooked at the structure of our organization. So we had a very traditional marketing organization that did print buying, managed the creative, ran events in our store, ran PR, and then we had my team, which I had sort of come up through the e-commerce channel. And so I had e-commerce, but I also had digital marketing because it was really my team that had the expertise in all of the sort of digital mediums. And then I also had loyalty, and sort of because that was a little more analytically driven. And so we actually restructured and we brought the whole organization into become one. And it really, what it did was it kind of took that, I would say, both direct response, but also digital and content creation mentality, and kind of enveloped the entire organization. And so we had for the first time, we weren't competing with budgets and we weren't competing with kind of who was getting to do what and tell what story. We were looking at our total marketing budget across absolutely everything we did. And my team also includes all the user experience and digital product management. So all the things we do in mobile and in the website and even in store digital experiences. So to bring it all together was really a big unlock because we had the chance for the first time to make trade-offs between things that haven't been traded off in the past, but I think really reflects where the future is going, which is everything from print media to investing in a new mobile app. And those things normally are not really traded off, but the reality is that at the end of the day, I'm a big believer that you grow your business because you create a great experience, not because you've figured out how to get kind of the lowest cost new people into the system. The people come if you create an experience that's great and they can't get it elsewhere and they want to come back. And so to be able to look at marketing not just as sort of an acquisition vehicle in traditional way, but to look at it from looking at that total consumer experience from the initial moments and where she first hears about us to the experiences she was having online or on her mobile phone or in our store, sort of prompted by these things, was pretty game changing. And so I think Sephora is probably ahead of some of the other retailers in that we see digital and digital tools to do our work as marketing. And I would say most companies are not quite there yet.
Yeah. I love hearing you talk about experience. And I love hearing you talk about how focused you are. You're very well lit now, by the way, too. I love hearing you talk about that focus on experiences for your consumers. That's really inspiring. And part of that you were talking about was the technology that enables that. And what a lot of this room is interested in is building those technologies that can better enable you. In my work, we've been incredibly focused on starting to build technologies and platforms to solve those problems, whether it's understanding the cookie world where Nielsen tells us that 60% of, if we just target age and gender, which we should be pretty good on, Nielsen says that 60% of the time you're right, which means 4 to 10 times the ad's delivered to the wrong person because the data on cookies is terrible. And we can look at the solutions that we're starting to build that bring that to 90% or above because more and more services like Facebook are logged in. So there's a great set of technologies that start to deliver on that. Had the great privilege today to launch tools for publishers with our LiveRail announcement today, where we can bring that data, that richness of audiences into publishers so that the people you want to reach, those experiences you want to create, we can create them. So lots of work being done around tools to modernize ad technology, modernize MarTech, as we call it here. And if this is your decade, and you get the tools and technologies that you want because this room serves you, what are the data and insights, the tools that you most wish for?
There's a lot of things, so I'll give maybe 4 different areas that we're focused on. So one of the big sort of points in Ashu's paper is around personalization. And I think I joined Nordstrom.com. Dan Nordstrom hired me at the end of 1999, and they were just selling shoes through dropship vendors, didn't even have apparel yet. And he said, we want to do personalization. And I feel like I was sort of like, well, let's actually just get product on the website first, and then we can focus on that. And it's many, many years later, and I would say the promise of it is still completely untapped. And there's a lot more possibilities out there. And for us, we launched a loyalty program in 2007. And we had the advantage of launching it in 2007 versus 1997. So at least we knew that the primary piece of information we wanted to capture when someone signed up for the program was email address as opposed to mailing address or other things. And so we launched our program 8 years ago, and we have since then had the ability, we also had sort of the foresight to know it needed to be a cross-functional, cross-channel program. And so we actually see 80% of our customers and everything they do and buy in our store. So we have the ability to start to sort of have made headway in the personalization model. We also were early believers in mobile, partially because I was just obsessed with my phone and all the things I could do with it. And so we launched both a mobile site and an app in 2010, which was early for retailers. And we linked our loyalty program to it. So that basically, if you had our app and you were a member of our loyalty program called Beauty Insider, you could just instantly start to track your past purchases, and if you want to come in and replenish, you would always have access, not at the order level, and you had to remember the date and the order number, but at the product level, so you could actually see the product you bought, the color you had, you can come back in and get it again. You could keep a wish list of the things you wanted, so if you're in store, you can scan a product, and then it's on your site when you get home, or you can add it to your, to your wish list from your website or from your mobile phone, and when you're in the store, you can easily access it. So we did a lot of kind of core things around having consumer data. And so today, when if you get our emails, there's some personalization in terms of the product we're recommending to you based on what we know you've bought and have done. When you get if you have our app, you will automatically have sort of what rewards are available to you, and we put on a sort of local aware capability. So now we are doing a test with when you walk into our store, you actually can see a store mode, and you can actually use it to shop along with you at store and get some relevant information to you there. So we've done a lot, but we have so much farther to go. And I would say that the tools to really be able to industrialize sort of the one-to-one capability is still a big, I think, unlock for us. So we have a big CRM program, but we don't necessarily have the tools to create, I would say, be able to see the consumer through all of the different touch points that she's using, and then be able to serve her up the right content at the right time, or whether it's product information, and know where she is to do it in an automated way. So we've done a lot of, again, brute force, like manual tests, but I would say that that is the biggest area that we believe will make our marketing just much more relevant and actually make the consumer experience better. So that's one. The other three don't require as much of a lead up.
I'm sure this is great. The room's great.
I would say
you're going to get pitched afterwards, by the way.
The second thing, yes, I'm expecting that. The second thing is that, and happy to be, is localization. And this is actually something I've tried to push on Cheryl to focus on as a Facebook opportunity. And I think it's relevant in the world of retail specifically. But a lot of retailers, they have a lot of stores, and each store has its own universe of stuff going on, and people that shop there, and activities they do, and workers in that store who have special skills and talents and all of that. And then we have sort of the corporate office and the e-commerce business and the sort of centralized marketing that's sort of driving all of the messaging. And the idea of sort of being able to do global campaigns, but also really market at a local level and have a system that allows you to allow the store to control their own marketing, but in a way that doesn't interfere with the sort of central marketing, I think is still a big opportunity. We were trying to get you guys to do something around sort of the local store pages that would link back to your central page, where you could see both relevant content to you in your local Burlingame store, but also see sort of this. And instead what happened was you'd have to join the Burlingame store and the sort of Sephora corporate. And so we're sort of building our own tools. We're working with a couple of different software companies and trying to sort of create this on our own. But I would say how you think about sort of that localized connection, but knowing there's kind of a big brand umbrella that also wants to be able to control and provide, I would say, templates and structure for the local stores to also be able to have that direct interaction is still, I think, a problem that has not been solved. And I would say the last one that sort of comes top of mind is the last two. So attribution is still not solved. We're just about to do something with a company that we sort of, after going through an RFP, felt was the closest to doing what we wanted. And I'm really interested to see how it works this year. We've definitely been, I would say, flying somewhat blind, making a lot of decisions based on, sort of basic data. And the first gen of what we're going to be doing with attribution modeling will be online only, so it won't include all the offline spend. But I think that there's still a lot of opportunity in that world. And then the last is around mobile. And I would say, maybe this technology exists and my team hasn't yet found it, so I don't know. But the fact is that people are coming, as any brand and retailer is seeing, everyone is opening your emails and kind of accessing your information on their phone, but they're still buying at a much higher rate on kind of big web. And so when we send things out via mobile, I think the technology to detect what device it is, show different versions of what you're trying to show, open in an app, in the right place within an app, like those capabilities are still really clunky, and they shouldn't be. So I think that there's still some tech around that is going to help because everyone is opening their email. Email is still a huge, huge driver of sales for all retailers and brands, and most people are opening on their phone, but then they're kind of actually buying elsewhere. And mobile is a sort of less optimized version of what most people are doing, and so to make that more optimized, I think, is opportunity. So those are some of the things that sort of came to mind as I heard the conversation.
Those are awesome. Those are great things. And we can follow up later because we have some messenger announcements today that you'll be quite excited about that may help me with your Cheryl conversation. Okay. And
does it require me adding yet another app to be able to go back and forth? Okay, good.
No.
All right.
But it's very exciting. But I'm not going to spend the rest of our 7.5 minutes because people would like to ask you questions in a moment. Okay. And we've solved attribution digitally, but we can talk about that later. We have it solved, but I'll follow up. This all requires changes in organizational behavior and practices, which people have gotten used to doing things a certain way, and now you're leading them, and leading them quite well, which is exciting to see, in different directions. And that requires people to think differently, to be goaled differently, to have different ways that they run the business. How do you do it?
I actually think the word that you used, goal, is key. So we have created kind of a set of metrics and goals which people are bonused on that are comprehensive and get everyone sort of focused on the same things. And so they tend to be more around, we have a somewhat, as I'm sure many people do, like unique bonus structure, but the way that we actually create metrics and measure them and then bonus people on them, if you sort of all pull it together, people are incented around the same thing. I think they also, they have a leader who's a believer and who's, hiring people who believe and who's making sure the conversations are happening in the right way. So a lot of it is, I think, I sort of think that the future head of marketing will come from sort of a more digital and ROI-oriented side, because I think it's hard to get immersed in that world when it's not your background. I think future CMOs will naturally come from that because that's the world we live in now anyway. So the training ground is happening naturally. But I would never, if I had a big e-commerce business, I would never put a traditional marketer over e-commerce. But I would put, which we did, in my case, put a traditional e-commerce person over marketing, as long as there's someone who understands and cares about sort of the total brand experience. So, I think part of it is how you sort of drive incentives, and part of it is kind of the people and the mentality.
Okay. So goals and leadership.
Yeah.
Great. That's fantastic and helpful. One last question before we open it up, and we'll have some fun here. My daughter is at a middle school where her class, they do an entrepreneurship class. And part of it is building a business plan and building a business. And they get to actually pitch Sandhill VCs. And as the judging was going on this year, one of the VCs came up and said, your pitches were better than most of the stuff that shows up in my office. So you get pitched by a lot of businesses for a lot of marketing technology. And when you think about it, what are the best ways to be pitched, and maybe an example of some of the worst ways to be pitched? And if you're so bold, an example that would be cringeworthy, and maybe an example that would be a grand slam, so that this room can be guided in how to talk with folks like you.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't make any decisions about what software providers or technology partners. My team does. I mean, people who are much closer to sort of their specific things. So, I think part of it depends on who you're pitching. If you're pitching to me, which a lot of people do, and it's always an email or almost always an email, the thing that makes me cringe is when people say, describe what they do in a way that I have no idea what they're talking about, and basically say, we'd like to understand what your needs are so we can see if we can solve your needs. I mean, my needs are like, I have a billion needs, so it's just, and then sort of sending the same email over and over. And so I would say, the vast majority of the vendor emails, and I get probably 20 a day at least, I delete. I hope they go to spam or I delete them. But I do respond to the ones that I like. So it actually does matter to me what's in the email itself. And I would say, certainly if you know a person who I know and you put their name in the subject line, I'm more likely to open it. So that's always a good thing. But I would say I want one sentence on what you do that's really clear. I want one sentence on who, to help explain it a little further, who the established player that you're in the space with is. So if you're competing with Google Analytics, you can say, we do what Google Analytics does, only, we're easier to implement, we're whatever it is, we're cheaper, we're faster, we've done a better version of what they do. So you just make it really easy to understand. And then you say, instead of can I have 20 minutes of your time, or I'm going to be in San Francisco, can you meet with me? You say, who is the best person in your organization to have a conversation with me, or could you refer me to the person, or could you, forward this to the relevant person? So, I just feel like that's a logical and respectful and intelligent approach to the way that it works if you're going to me. I'd say if you're going directly to the person, and if you have the name and you're going to that person, then it's really a matter of just very clearly explaining what the product is. Again, I think using sort of a comparison in the market is always really helpful of the established player. And then basically, asking for a very brief amount of time to either send them information or and then just saying, if you're not in the market for this product right now, when would be a good, can I reach out to you again in another 6 months or something like that? But I think, the best thing is always finding a person in and having that person at least be an advocate to make sure the conversation happens.
Incredibly practical advice. The room, I'm sure, appreciates that. Thank you.